Hello there, folks. How are you? It's Friday night. It's 6:30. What else will we be doing on a Friday evening? I don't know about back home, but over here in Stirling, the sun is absolutely splitting the stones. It's been very, very well this last 4 or 5 days, and long may that continue. I have with me tonight, I have on my In a Lifetime show, I have a gentleman who I feel has dedicated so much to his own society that it makes us all very proud to be able to be in the same hall, in the same room, and the same fun and the same crack and the same carry on as a gentleman who played football years ago, was originally a war baby, born in 1943 in Ballymena on the 22nd of May, a man who I have nothing but the top respect for, a man who has lived a life of what I would call something I could only ever dream of. I want to make sure that everybody is well aware of who we're talking about tonight. The man I have with me is the great Jackie Fullerton. Jackie Fullerton, how the hell are you?
I'm very well, Sherman, and thank you very much indeed. What an introduction. I wasn't sure whether it was me or not you were talking about there. But nice to talk to you. And the weather over here is splitting the slates as well, I'm glad to say. We're having a few good days. So how the hell are you?
I'm very, very well, Jackie. I've never kept better. I've just graduated there from my undergraduate, so I now move into postgraduate status, so obviously I'm going on to try and do my master's now next year. So I'm soaring very high in my own life, Jackie, and I'm climbing that mountain, and I'm just keeping on working hard and plying my trade and just trying to better myself, Jackie. So, Jackie, actually, somebody says to me the other week there, it says, who are you? Who are you for doing this? I says, I'm a better man than I was yesterday, so every day I'm getting something,
As I say, onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards is the very thing. Well, Jackie, I was through Manchester about 15 years ago, and Alex Ferguson was looking for some advice, and obviously it rung me up, and they flew me over, and it was only a 10-minute thing, So I went over and I gave Alex the advice, but then driving out of Manchester, being chauffeur driven out of Manchester, I had seen this big sign on the wall, and it said the 22nd of May, 1943 was perhaps one of the greatest days for Northern Ireland. And then there's a big picture of you and it says Jackie Fullerton was born.
And do you know, something I'm very proud of. 3 years later, on the 22nd of May, a guy called George Best was born. So two great wingers born the same day.
Do you know, Jackie, I was going to bring George into your conversation later on, so I'll leave that until then, because I know the affinity that you had with George. I'm very, very aware of all the things that you used to talk about and how many times you were in his company and how much you'll glorify him, because that is something that I and a lot of other people want to hear from officialdom of someone like yourself. Sure. But obviously, Jackie, back to you. Born in Ballymena, the 22nd of May, 1943. You're a war baby, Jackie. You're born into a family where I'm sure war rations are the thing, and, and just growing up out of that and growing up into the 50s, what sort of experience was that like, coming out of the war and as such, family-wise stuff,
I look back to that time and they were happy times. And, we didn't have anything. Everybody was in the same boat. And I remember the rationing. But I never remember being cold, and there was no central heating in those days. I never remember being hungry. And yet you couldn't get things like bacon, for example. But there were happy days, and there were good days too in society where you were brought up in a good family and you were taught right and wrong, and that has stood by me throughout my life to know when to do things and when not to do things. So I'm always grateful to my parents. My dad at that time was a bus driver, later became a postman for many years. And my mother, wee Martha, she worked in Gallagher's. So we were a working class family, and that's what has kept me grounded over the years, because I do remember that part of my life and those people working hard to give my brother Jimmy, my sister Maureen, and myself a start in life. And I'll always appreciate what they did for me. And one of the regrets I have is when I got the MBE, and very proud I was to get it in 2010, that my mother and father had both passed on, because I know they would have been so proud of their wee boy from a housing estate in Ballymena was at the palace and getting an award from Her Majesty.
Jackie, what house estate was that?
Chichester Park.
Chichester Park.
I lived with my mother's parents in Queen Street in Harryville. You'll know that well. And then when I was 6, we moved up the town to Slimish Drive, which is no longer there. There were prefabs which were built after the war. And that was right. It was great because it was right beside the Ballymena Showgrounds. So from 6, I was a Ballymena United fan being lifted over by people when I didn't have the money to get in to the games. And then when I was about 9-year-old, we moved, we got a flat down in Chichester Park. And then my sister came along and we needed a bigger place. So we moved up to Chichester. That was Chichester Park West. We moved up the hill, really, to Chichester Park East. And
I actually lived in Chichester Park East myself.
Yeah. Good place it was. Lots of good friends. And those friends are still my friends today. And sadly, a few of them recently have passed away. But because of TV and so on, it takes you away in a different direction in your life as your life has gone in a different direction. But as they say in our part of the world, Sherman, you never forget the bowl you were baked in. So those people are still my friends.
Isn't that an old common score about Ballymena people, Jackie? You know, you can take, what's the old saying, Jackie? You can take the man out of Ballymena, but you can't take the Ballymena out of the man. You know what I mean? You know, you'll still come out with this broadness. You know, I would say, out of your officialdom of work, you're still broad. You know, there's still them odd broad words there. Whereas you've perfected your English language over the years due to performance and production. Well, but that's not always the case. You know, you'll always have that old Ballymena.
No, you're back to it, and I can still do a great Ballymena accent, boy.
Do you know what I'm saying? you know all about it, like you.
Well, I remember many years ago, my brother Jimmy used to sing in a group, and they were playing down in the Raglan. You'll remember the Raglan Bar?
Yeah, the Raglan Bar, yeah.
Queen Street. And I went down there Wednesday night to hear them. I had been on television about a year, and I remember going into the bar and sitting beside this guy, and I says, I forget who it was, but let's pretend it was Harry. I says, Harry, how are you? He says, how you doing, Jack? He says, you remember my name? I said, of course I remember your name. I said, we went to school together and we played in the school football team together. Why would I forget your name? Well, he says, the television and all that. I says, well, that makes no difference. He says, where did you get the fancy voice? And it was the first time I had turned at anybody, because at that time in TV, you had to have this sort of a proper voice. Nowadays, regional accents are more acceptable. So I says, listen, I says, the money they pay me, which wasn't true at that time, the money they pay me, I would speak Chinese. And by the way, my bank manager thinks I have a lovely voice. And his mouth was open. He had no answer to that. So there you go. But you never forget yourself.
No, honestly, you know, that's, you know, like at the end of the day, we are who we are and we are where we're from. And it's just the same as everybody. You know, everybody has who they are and where they're from as far as dialect's concerned. So, Jackie, football was your first love, wasn't it? Or was it cricket?
No, football was the first love.
Football, aye. So football was your first love. Get into primary school and secondary school, and what way did that work? Had you anybody playing beside you that would all be pretty good and stuff like that there?
The wee park, which is St. George's Park in Harryville,
George's, yeah,
on Casement Street, just down from Harryville School, where I went to at that time. We went there straight from school, and we kicked until it was dark. And the wee man who looked after the wee park, Jim Kerrigan, God bless him, he'll be dead and gone a long time. But he was very good. But he says, lads, I'm going to have to lock up here. It's nearly dark. And we kicked the toes off our shoes and the knees out of our trousers, and we loved it. People like the late David Kearns, the late Bertie Thompson, Mousy Falls, the late Mousy Falls, great friends of mine in my younger days through the Boys Brigade and through football. And it took it from there. And I remember, Sherman, the joy when I was a year young and I got into the Harryville primary school as a left winger. I was all left foot. And they gave me the jersey the day before the game. And I remember rushing home and my mother was working in Gallagher's, as I said, and my father was working. So I was the only one in the house, and I went straight up the stairs, opened this parcel, put on this round neck shirt at that time with a little tying, and I dropped it down. And honestly, because I was a wee guy, I was very down on my knees. You'd have thought it was a mini skirt or something, but I was so proud of that. And then I went from there, Boys Brigade, Junior League, which was a tough lesson, as you will know. And then, luckily enough, I was able to go on and play senior football as an average, inconsistent left winger, but with a decent left foot.
Now, Jackie, there's one stat that you have there. There's one stat that you have. I've collected here, and it's a stat that I'll never ever. It's something that I'll never ever leave you. You were the first man ever to. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Substitute.
Yes. You were the first ever substitute used in the Irish League. I
didn't know that until a short time ago.
In the 6th of August 1966 against Ballymena United. You played for Cliftonville, but you were brought on a sub. Not only were you the first sub for Cliftonville ever, you were the first sub ever in the Irish League. And on the same day, Dennis Law became the first sub ever used for Manchester United against Derby County in the English League. So you share a great day with Dennis. So not only was the 22nd of May, 1943, one of the greatest days for no doubt. So, that's just something there that'll always be talked about,
Absolutely. I remember at that time, Cliftonville were totally amateur team. So you didn't get paid. But it's where most people started at that time their Irish League careers, because you went up there, played a few games in Cliftonville Olympic, the reserve team, and then you were thrust into the first team. And I remember one of my early games in the first team was against Crusaders, the Hatchet Men, as they called them. At that time, they were the Hatchet Men. And I remember playing one day, and David Kearns, dear bless him, was playing as well. And we get a corner on the right, so I wandered into around the penalty area mark from the left wing. And as I walked in, this figure, Norman Pavis, you remember Norman?
Sammy Pavis, Norman Pavis.
Norman and Sammy. Norman was a wing half, Sammy was a striker. And Norman was built like, massive. And he's telling the goalkeeper, right, Peter O'Kane it was, Peter, out here with your knees, studs, fists, everything. He says, get this ball. And he looked down at me and he says, where the hell are you going? And I had shouted at this guy from the terraces of Ballymena United, Pavis, you dirty pig, and all this sort of stuff. And I'm playing against him. And I looked up. Do you know I have yet to answer him, Sherman?
I was wondering what you were going to say.
It was one of those moments where I thought, what am I doing here? Why am I not back in the Junior League without all this pressure? But we went on from there.
Then, Jackie, obviously, you say you went on from there. You went on from there then to sign for Ballymena United and then for Derry City. The Derry City venture, Jackie, was that anything to do in around the area before the troubles had started and they had sort of broke away then? Were you there around them areas?
It was the Irish League time. I was there 64, 65 before I went to South Africa to live for a year.
Bumper Cathcart?
To play football. Bumper was he was like the Lord Mayor of Derry City, left back. He was
apparently so.
But we played in Europe, which was great. We played against Anderlecht in Brussels, the great Belgian team, and they had 10 internationals. So they beat us 9-0, Sherman. It was very depressing. People say about playing in Europe's a great experience. I didn't think so, because it left me thinking, well, they're playing football. What the devil are we playing? We were the Irish League champions at that time and a very good side, but 10 Belgian internationals the next year at the World Cup finals in England in 1966. What chance did you have? Absolutely masterclass. So there are different levels in this game.
Sure, look, Jackie, we'll go on and talk about that. We'll go on and listen. Don't even start me. So then, obviously, going to the cruise. When did you go to the cruise? I know, obviously, you ended up with in 1973. You had ended up in 1973 with a league winner's medal. Here's a picture of you there, just with that. Sorry about the hole in your shirt, Jackie.
Look at how young I am. Who is
nowadays they wouldn't allow you to take that picture because there was a hole in the shirt. You know what I mean? What was it, Jackie? I think you didn't have tracksuit bottoms, tracksuit tops, pre-match training gear. You know, like, it was just the one kit, and that was it, wasn't it?
But what people don't realise is at that time, and it was the same in England, I'm sure, and Scotland, we didn't go out and warm up. For 25 minutes. We just got a rub of the old oil in the dressing room and did a few stretches. And then at 5-3, the referee's whistle went and the two teams ran out and lined up. And that was it. But I almost retired because I was doing accountancy at that time.
That's right.
I was very busy in my job at STC, Standard Telephones and Cables. And Billy Johnson, then manager of Crusaders, he approached me, and I thought, well, I was going to retire, but he says, no, give it another year. And I was so pleased I did, because I was 1 year at Crusaders before going into television, and we won the league championship. And I was, there we are, I see a photograph of it. And,
that's over the far just above. He's got a bit of hair there now, just down at the bottom, the fullback at the bottom there from Korea.
Liam Beckett, my mate.
Liam Beckett, but obviously then you're just above Liam there.
I'm second player from left in the middle row.
That's right.
With darker hair in those days. But
so what was that like, Jackie, being a league champion for a Crusaders side, Belfast side, you know, coming back to Ballymena, they put a bit of carry on, a bit of slagging and stuff, you know, but probably a great experience for you too, Jackie. You know, it's not every year you win the league.
Tom Finney was who went to Sunderland after that and played for Northern Ireland a number of times, centre forward, great player.
Yeah.
He got 23 goals, and I played mostly in the left wing, and I get 20. So I was very proud of that. But on the Sunday, I was married and living out in Kells, where my wife was from, Linda. And I went up to the garage on the Sunday to get the papers to read all about Crusaders and hopefully me, because we had clinched the league the previous day, 5-2 winners at Larne. And we had to win the game to win the championship. So a Ballymena supporter was in the garage, and he said, you were lucky yesterday. And I says, we won 5-2. How can that be luck? And I says, we were 4 up after 20-odd minutes, 4-0. And he says, that's what I mean. You got 4 quick ones. I said, well, I've heard of 1 quick one, but I've never heard of 4 quick ones. So he couldn't really take it, this guy, that the boy from Ballymena had won a league medal and Ballymena hadn't featured at all that year.
Aye.
But I have always been a Ballymena supporter.
Oh, sure, know that.
They've been made an honorary life member by the club in recent years, of which I'm very proud of, and I do a lot of work for them because they're the club in your heart. They're the club you're brought up with, and ever since those days of getting lifted over into the matches from 6-year-olds. So it's been a lifetime of support for my home club.
Jackie, we're all forever Sky Blues, you know. As I say, you can take us anywhere in the world where we go to. You know that
Sky Blues.
If you were to, Jackie, if you were to live in Canada for the last 30 years, you would still be weekly wanting to know how Ballymena was doing.
Absolutely.
You would be up through the internet. You would probably still be commenting in some shape, form, or fashion. You know, it's quite obvious, part of your DNA, it's your blood, and that's just basically, you know, you can't help it, I can't help it, we can't help it, and we don't regret it, you know.
No. So
Jackie, then obviously that was your last season in Irish League football. Mm-hmm. You then went on to television, and this chance come across, Jackie. What way did it work for you? You know, just obviously on the sports scene, you went to a penalty shootout one night, done a bit, and this, you know, and then just
penalty competition in Ulster Television, ITV Ulster, and I went there. They looked for the 4 top goal scorers in the league, and I was one of the 4 at that time. Des Dixon, do you remember him?
Desi Dixon, very well, yeah.
Deadly Des, he was
Snapshot,
there.
Korean.
And I was one of the 4, and there were 4 Gaelic football players and 4 rugby players, and I think I finished second to fella O'Neill, who was a great Gaelic football, Sean O'Neill, great Gaelic footballer for Down, who had won the All-Ireland. But that night I met an Englishman called Sidney Perry, who was the big chief at UTV. And he, instead of spending 2 minutes to say, hello, how are you, and thank you, and all that, we talked about cricket and various sports because he was like myself, a cricket lover. And God bless him, he must have been impressed because a couple of weeks later, we're playing at Seaview and he was down with a mate of mine, Robin Walsh, who was head of news at UTV at that time. He was a cricketer alongside me at Ballymena. And Robin says, Jackie, I've got Sidney Perry here. He's wondering if he can have a word with you afterwards in the clubhouse. And I says, yeah, sure. So I went in, cut a long story short, and he asked me, would I be interested in television? And I says, well, I told Robin I'd always be interested in the media, maybe reporting to keep me in the game, reporting football. And he says, oh, I think you might have a chance in television. So that was all right. So I went up, did a couple of camera tests. And the second one, I did an interview. Now, at that time, I thought I was going to UTV, if possible, to go to a game on a Saturday, come back, and they had a show on about 5:25, sportscast, and come back and do a little straight to camera report of the game, because there were no cameras at the games in those days, 73, 74. And then the second one, I was doing an interview, and I thought, why am I doing this? I hadn't a clue, knew nothing about the business. And then afterwards, they called me in, and Sidney said to me, he says, that went very well. He says, we would like you to join the team of Sportscast. And I thought, what does that mean? Does that mean being a runner in the studio, bringing the script to Gordon Burns? A lot of viewers will remember Gordon Burns.
Gordon Burns, yeah.
Well, he was actually going to England at that time, just before Krypton Factor and all, and they needed a presenter for Sportscast. And I said, well, I had to say, oh, well, what does that mean, part of the team? He says, well, I see you as the presenter. And my eyes went, oh. And then he offered me money 4 times more than I was getting for playing football. And I thought, that makes up my mind. I'm definitely...
There's not a problem now.
I'm definitely retiring. And that was in June I got the job, and I made my debut in August 73. And the rest, as they say, Sherman, is history.
What a wonderful way to put it, Jackie, huh? 4 times more, and then that's history, huh? My goodness.
Yeah,
so you're going right up through then, Jackie. I have a couple of pictures here, obviously, just, in your early parts of your career. Obviously, there. The thing going to World Cups and stuff, Jackie, like España 82.
That was the story of what happened at the 1982 World Cup finals a couple of weeks after we came back. And
that must have been a total, going with the team. Sorry to butt in there, but, if there's ever anything I would like to do in life, it would be to go with a football team as a reporter at the World Cup.
Yeah, it was magical. It really was.
It never got any better, did it?
No.
I didn't think so.
Enough then to go to Mexico in '86 as well. And that was the lovely part of the job as well. Even though you weren't there on holiday, I counted up, Sherman, a few years ago, over 50 countries, something like 56 countries during my time working, going to events. And it was a great experience because you get to nice countries. I got to Malta 3 or 4 times. You get to France, but many people can go to those countries. But it was going to the poorer countries like Moldova, Albania, Armenia, and there you see poverty. And you realize that where we live, and I know there are people on the breadline still in the Western world but these people had absolutely nothing. And I remember Albania in particular, we stayed in Tirana, the capital, and our hotel had cardboard. It was like our old house at Slavish Drive. It had cardboard in the windows, and there was a shower. There wasn't a tile in the wall. There were about 3 tiles left, and they had no food. And everywhere you go in the world, Sherman, there's an Irishman. And that day when we arrived at the hotel in Tirana, we're outside. It was the buses and the cars. It was like the Second World War. Really, it was like going back in time. And this man was, would you believe, great Irish name, was Captain Patrick Murphy. Big Murphy, nice fella. So he was filling me in, and I was asking him, I says, what's it look like? It seems to be very backward. He says, Jackie, we're here to try and help them in ways and give them stuff at times. And he says, I can go and visit people. He says, they're the nicest people in the world. But he says, when I go to their house, they can't even offer me a cup of coffee because they have nothing. And I remember the kids begging from us, beautiful kids, dusky skin. And they were asking chocolate, dollar. They talked about dollars, not pounds. And we used to give them little mini Mars bars, which the team had brought a lot of their own food with them, and little snacks like Mars bars and Kit Kats, so on. And they were absolutely delighted. But that close-up of poverty has never left me. And I came home and I vowed never to complain again. But as you know, when you come back to your own environment within 2 weeks, you're complaining left, right, and centre about everything. But some people have a hard station in life, Sherman.
I think we're just complaining people, you know what I mean? We're a society of complainers, you know. But I think really at the end of the day, Jackie, when you talk about, you know, the glories of what you've had in your career there, you know, a couple of pictures there of you there at Spain there, you know, them highs, you know, the lows. It's quite brilliant that you still remember the lows. They're not the lows. I mean, the times that whenever you were, you know, hit a human thing. You know, it's great that you've noticed the human factor. You know, because there's many a man that just says, "Oh, it was terrible there." You know, at least you've consoled with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you identify with it. And when I saw those kids in Tirana, Albania, because I'm a parent of 3 boys, as you know. They could have been my kids, could have been me living there with my kids. And just to see that, as I say, it's never left me. And I'm no Mother Teresa, but things upset you, and you do remember them.
You know, Jackie, at the end of the day, you can only deal with the cards that you were dealt with. And the old saying. And, you know, you can only be so thankful that you're sort of from this part of the world where we do have a great prosperity, you know what I mean, regardless what way we try to prescribe it or describe it.
That's
you know,
the shame of it.
Prosperity,
that's the shame, Sheridan, that people have been watching the news for the last 40 years and the troubles we've had. And when I think of the people of Belfast in particular, which was bombed and brutalized over those years, and we still had football, and I was reporting and commentating. And they were there with that lovely sense of humor. Their resilience was just brilliant. And we are the warmest people, as you know, a warm Irish welcome. And I always felt saddened that we were portrayed as these idiots who were fighting amongst each other. People thought they had a cause to do that, but thankfully that has changed, and we're now trying to move forward as well as we can.
I mean, and we all need each other. You know, we need each other to combine, to gel and to form, and to produce the glories of the narrownesses of the last 40 years to produce into the next, you know, sector of life on Earth, especially in Northern Ireland, or whatever way people want to look at it, you know. However, Jake, I've got another couple of pictures here just want to run by you here. Obviously, you can tell me where you actually offered this here, Jackie. There was rumour. We are all well aware that you are shaken and not stirred. But Was it a Vincenzo or a Cinzano or a, you know?
That picture, if I remember, was in the Belfast newsletter. And it was Stephen Nolan, who has the big show these days, the biggest show in the country, as he said.
Doesn't he?
And he was doing a piece for it, and they had met me, and he wrote this very glowing thing about me as a person, which was very nice. And he says, if you had what Fullerton has, you would bottle it and sell it. And that's why this smooth picture of James was there. So I should have employed him.
Jackie, you know what you should do? You should bring out your own. You should bring out your own whiskey.
I don't think
there's a nice one there of you. That's a number of years ago. There, that would have been pre-op, obviously.
That's probably just after the operation.
Right.
2004 triple heart bypass. You're referring to.
Yeah, I was just leading up onto that, Jackie.
That was a hard time.
Just going to go right through from your time at Granada, from Sky TV, obviously, and you know, like, not to be sarcastic, Jackie, or not to be smart, or not to try to lower you on my show. You're a man who I've nothing but the best of respect for. But Jackie, you've faced many challenges in your life. But was there ever a bigger challenge than the challenge you met in 1980?
Oh. I think you're referring to, there he is. Do you know when I see that, I still tense. Giant haystacks. Dear bless him, he's dead and gone.
You know, Jackie, I'm going to show that another number of times here. The reason why I'm going to show it is because I want people who are watching here this evening to just sort of look at the expression of you for the second after you hit the ground. So here we go. And then I want you to tell me.
I couldn't breathe.
Because I hated Giant Haystacks. I was a big Danny fan. I was a big Danny fan. Or Ian Sinclair.
That's yes. Oop.
Then up. Oh! That's it. And then one last time.
Oh.
Jackie, that man lifted you and threw you to ground there.
The amazing thing is, Sherman, that happened in January 1980, as you said. That's 41 years ago. And I can still, to this day, when I'm at football matches, over the years, people have always said, Jackie, there's the giant behind you and all this. Where's Giant Haystacks? So it helped bring me into the public eye, the eye of the public. So he did me a favor, actually, and I made a lot of money out of it too. $250 from CBS. It was shown all over the world, and bloopers. So It'll Be All Right the Night was our program in Britain here. So I made a few quid out of it, but and I always remember I met him once afterwards, and he said I met him a few times, but he says. I says, well, at least we made a few quid out of it. He says, I know, but he says, I was on a plane recently, he says, on the way to India to wrestle. And he says they showed it. I never get anything for that, he said. I said, neither did I. But the fallout from that, it was recorded in the afternoon, Sherman, that. And initially, Gloria Hunniford, who was the presenter.
Yeah.
Big star now, lovely lady. She was supposed to do it, but she was out doing something else, so I was drafted in. And it was to finish with me asking him, and I did ask him the question, is it not all fake, all choreographed and all that? So whether he took umbrage to that or whether he just didn't like me. But at the end of the interview, I was to take my jacket off, as I did, and he was to lift me above his head, twirl me round, a new throw he had, and just drop me in. The studio floor was about that thickness. So it was solid. And all he did was lift me by the trousers up into there, and without twirling me, just went boom, as you've seen. So I wasn't ready. So I was like a rag doll when I hit the floor. I wasn't physically hurt, but I thought I was going to swallow my tongue or so. I couldn't. And I panicked. But I managed to say thank you, Mr. Haystacks. But people still ask me to this day, did he hurt you? And I says, are you stupid? Of course he bloody hurt me.
I didn't kill me. And that's you in the late 80s there, Jackie. That's you in the late 80s there with the sun.
That young man.
the lotion on and the looking really, really cool. But Jackie, you mentioned something there earlier on there. You were talking about the 82 and the 86 World Cup. I just want to, obviously, there's a poignant thing here, being Ballymena men. I've obviously let the cat out of the bag there. The differences in these two sides. What was it like being involved with that group there, Jackie? What was it like being involved in 82 with the actual group and being in the arena at that night and all, and being a part of the actual travelling group? What was the experience like?
It was, what can I say? It was brilliant. I mean, something I'll never forget. And I wasn't commentating that night. So I was along with Fullerton Wellesby, wee lad from Granada TV. He did TV Big Match. And Elton and myself worked at that World Cup, stayed at the same hotel, etc. And we were behind the goal, not where Jerry Armstrong scored, but at the other goal. Because at the end of the game, we were on the pitch, he to do interviews for ITV, me to do them for UTV. So when Jerry says, "My God, we've scored," it was away over the other goal. Couldn't believe it. And the kicking that went on that night, Sherman, when you're
I know.
Right behind the goal, people wouldn't see the half of it. But anyway, then Mal Donaghy was sent off. And then heart and mouth time, can we hold out? And we did. What a marvellous victory. And Big Jerry, still a friend of mine today. But I took off, final whistle, I'm off with the cameraman in tow. And I reached the centre circle when Bingham has just got the hold of Jerry and about to hug him. So I was brought into the hug. So the three of us were hugging there. And I had a lump in my throat the size of a tennis ball. And Bingy was nearly in tears, and so was Jerry. Jerry was full of adrenaline. He just scored this goal. And as Billy Bingham said to me in his little Anglified accent, he says, "Jeeky," he always called me Jeeky. He says, "Jeeky, we beat the Spanish in their own bull ring." And it was truly memorable. But do you know, that was brilliant. We weren't as good in 86 in Brazil.
Well, you see, this is the question I'm going to ask you.
We were an
do you notice something about this picture here?
There's no Martin O'Neill.
Right, there's no Martin O'Neill. But there's two Ballymena men.
There's Nigel Worthington.
Yes, in the bottom row here. And Stephen Penny. Alex's son.
I'm Stephen Penny. Yes, Stephen gets...
Isn't that remarkable?
And I played a lot of tennis at the El Tapatia Hotel in Guadalajara with Stephen. Great lad, and still playing a lot of golf. He's almost a professional, I think. He plays.
Specsavers.
That's right. But I think his wife does most of the work, and he plays golf.
Aye. I remember one day, Jack, I went down into Tamley's Butchers and sat down, and I was sitting for 20 minutes. And the guy came out and he says, "Are you waiting on someone?" I says, I've got an appointment. He says, "What for?" I says, "Speccy." He says, "It's up right there." I had no glasses at the time. He says, "It's up right there." I was down in the Butchers thinking it was the Specsavers, I had no glasses at the time. But anyway, there's moments there, Jackie, like Mexico, and then obviously, Jackie, you can right through the Northern Ireland commentating thing, right up until the very last times you were doing it, like Healy,
well,
that was
Healy,
that was some run, them 7 or 8 games, and then through the Michael Neal stages here, and then obviously last night, Kenny Shields.
Brilliant! I was so pleased for Kenny because
isn't it remarkable?
Football. They struggle at the finals, but that's not what it's about. It's like Northern Ireland going back. What chance had we going to 82 or 86? Slim and none. But the idea, these girls who are mainly amateur, part-timers with local clubs, few of them play across the channel, not many, that they have done this and they've turned it around. And Kenny has been a big part of that, him and his son, Dean. And I must phone Kenny and when the dust dies down and congratulate him because he's done a magnificent job. And I watched every kick of the ball the other night. It was on BBC Northern Ireland, BBC Two. And it was just great. It took me back, in fact, to when the boys qualified. I remember being at Windsor Park in November 81.
Against Israel.
and we had to beat Israel. That's right. You've done your homework, eh? And we were struggling at 0-0. We were doing all right. They weren't in the game really. And then this cross came over, and Billy Hamilton headed it back across the goal, and big Jerry Armstrong, the man, stabbed it in. And the place that time, it wasn't the new Windsor Park.
Aye.
It was still there. There must have been about 40,000 there that night, and the atmosphere was brilliant. But I also have to remember the 1-0 against England at Windsor Park, World Cup qualifier, and that was just truly remarkable. And there was the new grandstand at the end. And it's amazing, Sherman, when you commentate, when I was driving home from games, you can remember literally every word that you said in a commentary. And when you're driving home, I'm thinking, why'd I say that? I shouldn't have said that. Oh, that was a good thing to say. You criticize and you praise and you analyze your performance. And I still remember the commentary for Healy's goal that night.
Oh, who doesn't?
When the ball was with Davis in the centre circle, I said, Steve Davis, good ball. The flag stays down. Healy. And he took it in, and then he hit it. And then hit the net. I went, Healy! 1-0! And that was magical. And I always tell the wee man, I call him the wee man, that he extended my career in many ways.
Yeah.
He scored goals for fun. And I commentated the vast majority of them.
Against Spain, Sweden.
Oh.
Jackie, there's a thing there, Jackie, I was just going to say to you there. If I had been commentating that night, I was a wild man for Hugh Johns.
Yes, I love Hugh Johns.
Hugh Johns was my favourite. Well, Brian Moore and Hugh Johns, I would have said 1-0. 1-0.
That's what Hugh
Johns always said. 1-0 to the Greens. They've done it, really. 1-0 to Northern Ireland. And here we go. Are we in for a shot this evening? You know, it's...
And then I did the replay and I said, it's his 19th goal and it's against England at Windsor Park. What a moment.
Rub it right in. Yeah, just right you are. You know, how often did we ever beat England, you know? But I think the last time was whenever Best was playing, wasn't it?
No. We beat Scotland 1-0.
European title, the British Championship.
He didn't score the goal. It was Dave Clements who scored the goal. But Georgie tormented them left side, right side. He was just a marvellous player and a marvellous man too. You said you were going to talk about.
I was just about ready to do that now. Just about ready to try and blend it through, Jackie, and just say your friendship with George over the years. That's him in '77 there against Holland. You know,
77 was the year I met him. Here's a wee bit of name dropping for you, Sherman. In Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I was over on holiday with my brother Jimmy. We had an uncle lived in Santa Monica Beach in LA. And George was playing for the LA Aztecs.
That's right.
And we went out to meet him at Hermosa Beach. He used to hang out there. He had a little cafe of a place. Did. Just off
Bobby McAlinden.
Bobby McAlinden. And the amazing thing is that I have a photograph of the three of us, and all three of us were born on the 22nd of May. And that's part of the reason why he was at Man City and George was at Man United.
That's right.
They teamed up and they were great mates. And
that's right.
I saw Bobby again at George's funeral in recent times, which is not a great memory. But I always remember, Sherman, that I thought, well, George he's all this the playboy and Mr. Showbiz and all that. And I always thought, well, he's not that good looking. He's striking with the long, shiny black hair and the Beatle style and all that. And I didn't know what all the fuss was about. And then I met him, and he was suntanned. He was lean. He was looking really fit. He was 31 at that time. And then he smiled. And he had this great smile. But his eyes smiled as well, and they were blue. eyes. And I thought, oh, that's it. That's why the girls are queued round the block. To tell you the truth, I'm as straight as a die, but I had a little bit of a tremble myself.
Jackie, what was it like being in his presence, and talking and and just, and obviously you seen him play as a footballer, just will never ever, there's never ever going to be anything like him again come from here.
No, I mean, he's right up there. I always thought that Best, Pele, and Maradona were the sort of holy trinity.
There's no Cruyff in there.
There are many, many great players, and how can you tell? But there's very few. I can't think of anybody who was better than George Best. And
it's mesmerizingly, tantalizingly. It's just like, it's whenever you watch the old videos of George Best, you get to sit back and say to yourself, you still don't care what people say. That there's unbelievable. His balance is, like that goal against Chelsea. It was come on something there the other night. That goal against Chelsea in the 70s semi-final of the FA Cup. Chelsea beat them right enough, but George Best got the ball off one of the fullbacks and he took it through. Ron Chopper Harris nearly killed him.
He tried to cut them in two.
He literally did cut them through. Now I'm in 9.9 out of 10 players today would have fell and rolled all over the place. Best didn't. He played on, took the hand out of the keeper, took the hand out of the fullback. How much would it be worth today? How much would George Best be worth today?
Do you know, Sherman? I get people ask me, "Would George Best?"
I'm sure you do.
Would George be a great player today? I just look at them and say, "Are you serious?"
I know he'd be 10 times better.
The better pitches and so on. But
I don't know.
No, he was a marvelous person, and he was great company. And there's a photograph there.
Ballymoney.
Two of us in the back row, either side of Jim Platt.
Jim Platt, yeah. That's Ballymoney there. You were doing a fundraiser. And there's Smudger Smith down at the bottom at Chichester Park, man.
Yes. The left-hand side beside Desi Dixon.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. You see,
the wee Bill McMurdo was George Best. He was like an agent, wasn't he?
Bill McMurdo in the middle with the front row with the beard.
Not there. I got that off Wiki or one of them Google sites, so did there. And we could go on all day, Jackie, but there's a couple of things I do want to end with you here. Obviously, just in having the chat. Your book, Jackie.
Uh-huh.
Where can I get that at?
That's a good question. As Liam Baggett says, Jackie has 30,000 of those books in the garage. No, he didn't sell any.
So, who wrote that book, Jackie? Who wrote that book for you?
Roger Anderson, who worked with me in the BBC. He's a very good journalist, and I thought he did a good job. And
I'm sure it's in Ballymena Library. I must have a nosy at it, Jackie.
Yeah. Funny enough, he made the first chapter about me rushing home to try the Harryville School football shirt on.
There you are. All right. That was the original. I done the same, Jackie, at primary school. We had the old claret and blue Burnley kit. It was the old 70s Burnley kit. It was a hand-me-down. You know what a hand-me-down was, don't you?
Probably about 3 sizes too big for you.
Jackie, I was the same. I see whenever I put it on. And then we didn't have any match, so I wore like black shorts with like maybe orange socks, which is the complete opposite. Jackie, see nowadays, school kids, they've got tracksuits, t-shirts, pre-match warm-up shirts, plastic coats. They take the coats off, they've got tracksuits for down below the plastic. It's just a totally different day from it. And you were before my time, But then, Jackie, obviously, one of your greatest achievements, Jackie, obviously, quite obviously, you were saying there earlier on, was whenever you were asked to come and accept an MBE by the Queen. Now, obviously, your mother and your father, God rest their soul, weren't alive to see that day, but that's bound to have been the proudest day of your life, Jackie. And I have a wee picture of it here for you, especially for you. And it's actually quite poignant that the Queen today is in mourning of her husband, Edward. So, or the Duke of Edinburgh, I should say. Yeah. So, it's sort of, both of our hearts go out to them, but there's a picture of you there, Jackie.
Yeah, somebody said she was a lovely, lovely lady, And I say that as a supporter of the monarchy, but she was very nice and very down to earth. And somebody saw that photograph and said to me, "Did you both go to the same hairdresser?"
For Jack, you believe it or believe it not, they do look quite the same.
Obviously, we did, but no, it was a shame that my mum and dad and Linda's mum and dad, they had gone as well. They'd all been very proud, and
I'm sure they would have been.
Well, hey, it's not bad. A wee fella from Stemish Drive.
No, and Jackie, what does that entail then? What did you go? You went. You get the flight. They pay everything over. You go over as a guest. You're lifted and laid.
I go over, and
there's a meal there. Or whatever you're catered for a day or two or something.
They pay for the hotel and the flights and everything, and
amazing.
You go the next morning, and you have to take your passport with you. And you're allowed 2 people, but thankfully, Ian Paisley Jr., a good friend of mine through the motorbikes, he got my 3 sons in. So
right.
It was probably the best family day we have ever had.
Yeah, fantastic.
When you walk in, Sherman, you get through the gates, and you have to walk in through that. The balcony where they do all the waving and all that, and when the thousands are outside. And when you walk in there, the feeling of history of this palace and the people who have stood up there, and then you go in, and the art on the walls must be worth hundreds of thousands, millions, and then the room itself, and they call out your name, and you swallow on. The Queen asked you a couple of questions and all that, but she was lovely. She said, She said, "This is a big day." I said, "It is, Your Majesty." You call her Your Majesty once and then Ma'am afterwards. And you had been briefed on all this, but that was a great thing. But do you know, I'm sure we're finished nearly, Sherman. I have a strange highlight, and you will understand it. Of all the things I've done, this one's right up in the top 3. Was you were a wee boy and you dreamt about playing at Wembley, I'm sure, playing for Northern Ireland or Man United or something like that there. Because at that time, Wembley Cup final was the only game on television when I was growing up. So this marvellous pitch, and in the late 70s, 78, I think it was, I got to commentate Northern Ireland, England, the European Championships. And I walked across the pitch in the afternoon, and you know the half moon of sand behind each goal there were.
Yeah.
And the ball was at the back. I remember interviewing Big Ron Atkinson that day, and that was Big Ron making his debut for ITV that day, along with Martin, the commentator. And I remember I thought, this is not bad. You didn't get to play at Wembley, but you're here and you're commentating. Next best thing. And that's one of my proudest moments from a boyhood dream.
I've been doing commentary and stuff like that there, Jackie. We've been studying commentary, preparation for commentary, details, reports and stuff like that. We've covered it all in that academical aesthetic. The situation is, if you turn around and you says to me, Sherman, I'm doing Northern Ireland against Austria next Wednesday night, I need someone to come along and speak whenever they're spoken to. I could do that, no problem. I could do that. You could say to me, Sherman, what do you think of the game so far? I could say, yeah, well, Jack, the Austrians are definitely pushing forward, but obviously the Northern Ireland defence are holding them very, very well. And if we can just try and maybe get the ball out to Anderson there, and obviously if he can maybe just get in behind and get across him, we might find something coming out of it, I could do that, Or I could then, if someone says to me, Sherman, I need you to commentate on a game here, I can do that. I can open up the game. I can say, hello there, folks. We're at Windsor Park here this evening. The crowd is coming back. It's great to see the crowd back after the COVID situation. And obviously the wind isn't playing a massive part this evening. And we're going to open up with the teams here. First of all, the team sheet is, can do that type of thing. And I would get better at it with the more experience.
Yeah, of course.
And to think
The
To
thing
think that coming from where I come from, to the equivalent of what you're talking about, and we'll end up at Wembley, that would be, like, you don't even, that would bring a tear to my eye, Jackie.
Sherman, over all the years now, I've had a few downs as well. You lose a program, you don't get doing that much because of contracts or whatever. But the highs have outweighed and beaten the lows. But overall, I've lived the dream.
Yeah.
A great life. But as I say to any young person, it's one thing getting a chance. Another thing is working very hard to take that chance. And that's what you're doing at the moment. And I wish you well. And I will hear your dulcet tones, maybe commentating in the future.
Well, Jackie, you never know. I'll die trying. Well, put it that way. I will die trying to emulate someone like yourself, or to. I'm not saying I'm going to do what you do. I've literally no chance. But I'm forever going to try and reach the best as what I can be.
You be the best.
That's what the likes of David Jeffries would say, or you can only ever try to be the best of what you can be. And if I can keep on getting better and reaching the higher climates, then I'll be forever happy with myself.
No, you should never. You should never want to be the next Hugh Johns or Brian Moore or Jackie Fullerton or whoever. Be the best Sherman Wright.
Yeah.
And that's all you're aiming for. But
I'm thoroughly enjoying my journey at the minute.
If you have the desire, go for it.
Jackie, that's what it's all about. If you have the desire and the will and you want to continue to do things like that, you'll continue. I'm thoroughly enjoying my journey at this moment in time. I'm now 7 years in education. I'm now going on to be a postgraduate master's student. That's a massive lift for me. However, Jackie, one last thing. This guy here.
Oh, is that Shay?
Shay McCartan. What do you think, Jackie? He signed a 2-year deal.
Best piece of news I've got in recent weeks was Shay McCartan signing a 2-year deal, because he came home. He's got, I think, 12 goals for the season as we talk. Wonderful player. 2 Northern Ireland caps. He's played in England. He's done the full-time thing, but he had only signed a 1-year contract for our wee team, the Sky Blues. And I thought, what's going to happen? Well, I think he had offers, as he would have, but he's staying. He's working in a family business, so it suits him to be part-time. He could have gone to, I'm sure, Glentoran, Linfield, Larne, Crusaders, but he's staying with us. So David Jeffrey, who to me is the best manager in the business in Northern Ireland, has wooed him and got him to stay. And that is like signing 3 players. He's a tremendous player. And if we can sign a few more, as I'm sure David and Brian McLaughlin will do, the wee Sky Blues can do well against these teams. It's getting harder because some of them are full-time, as I've just said. As David keeps saying, it's the part-timers against the full-timers. But he loves the challenge. And he's a good man.
Jackie, so do we. We love the challenge too, We'd forever never give up.
This business is a challenge that we're in. This is show business, Sherman.
This is the real thing. And for all you people out there who are not aware of who we are, Jackie he's been talking about some of his most famous pictures, but the most famous picture of all.
Who's that? I can't see that on the screen.
That's me and you, Jackie, in the Adair Arms.
Is that right?
Yeah. We were at the Gogorn Blues. It's very dark there now, right enough.
Yes.
We were at the Gogorn Blues dinner one night. We were called up, and you brought me up, and we messed about on the floor for 10 minutes. I was doing the interviews and stuff at the time. I was honoured. I was honoured to get a free dinner and a couple of pounds to stand among with yourself and stuff. It was a great night. No, but that was nice to people respect things like that.
Well, that's what I've enjoyed over the years as well. Getting a few pounds.
It's great to get all that.
Free dinner. So
Jackie,
keep going. I'm proud of you, son. Keep going.
Jackie, I'll forever be forever chasing you. I'll be forever respecting you. I'll be forever chatting to you anytime I see you. I wish you the very, very best of luck. Obviously, I wish all the lads the best of luck. I know them all, Darren, Nicky, and the other young guy.
Yeah.
I know Gareth well, all involved in media there, and I wish I could even reach that level. But maybe that's my next step, But anyway, Jackie, you see, until the next time.
Not until the next time. Sherman, thank you very much indeed.
Jackie Fullerton, God bless your soul. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jackie Fullerton there, an absolute legend, MBE, sports reporter, you name it. The man has been there, done it, wore the t-shirt, and still has it. Jackie Fullerton, God bless. Thank you very much indeed. This is Sherman Wright from the quintessential Shirley Show, and until next week.